Okay. Yeah. Debbie's muted. Oh my God. I'm muted.
No.
Okay. As you can see, we are still learning Zoom. Welcome to our July 1st So What? This is brought to you in part by Fox Chapel Publishing, Footwoman.com, and Banyan Boutiques. As a lot of you who won door prizes with Karen Gibbs should have gotten them by now. I know she shipped them out. Nancy Dill said she was shipping hers out. Everybody should have gotten them. Let us know if you didn't get your door prize. Please don't video us because we're videoing it for you. And whoever's Debbie and Luke's iPad, if we don't see you, then we can't see what's in your glass, and that means you might not get a door prize. So we need to see you. If you have questions for our guests, send them via chat, and Debbie and I will relay them to her. When we get to the door prize time, we'll just randomly choose for your door prize. Debbie's going to write them down so we make sure that you get them. We will put all the information for our guests on our Facebook So What page, and you can tell your friends if they missed it, they can watch it on YouTube under So What Zoomcast. So, and we got some cool stuff today, and we got a really cool guest. Of course, she's a friend of mine, and she's really, really interesting. I love talking to her just because she has so much knowledge. It's amazing. Nancy Mahoney, she's been a teacher. She's written like a gazillion books, 14, I think it said on your website, Nancy. She's a book editor. She's an EQ artist. She's a teacher. And she's like all over the place. She's really cool, and she's fun. She's a lot of fun. So before we get to Nancy, I just want to find out what Debbie got in her, hang on a minute there, Deb. You know what I'm going to ask you, Deborah? What is that?
Diet soda.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Your buzzer's not working.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I know you're all waiting for that. Nancy, so what's in your glass?
She's muted.
Oh.
I mute her. There we go. Okay.
I unmuted myself.
Okay, there you go.
So here's my glass. And
Yeah.
I have a fun glass. See, it's a wavy glass.
Wavy
So it's
glass.
cranberry and a splash of vodka.
Oh.
Cranberry and a splash of vodka.
All right. So what do you think,
Early
everybody?
in the day for me to be drinking.
Does she get a ding dong? Thumbs up. She gets a ding dong.
I get a thumbs
Here we
up to the
go.
glass.
You're in.
Okay.
Not ready for that one yet. So Nancy, you wear a lot of hats in the quilting industry.
I do.
Why
I
aren't you
do.
spotlight?
I've been around the quilting industry a long time. Yeah, let me move this light. There's a little spotlight in the back here. Let me just change that. There, that should be better, maybe. I'll sit so it's blocked. How's that? Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
And I did, before I started quilting, I did a lot of handwork. So I did embroidery and crochet work and needlepoint and just all kinds of handwork. I always loved handwork. And so one day I decided I was just make a quilt. And I took a quilting class and I started quilting. I learned how to do everything by hand. So I did handwork, hand applique and hand quilting. Didn't do too much hand piecing because I'd done so much sewing using a sewing machine. So I was real comfortable with that. So then I moved to Seattle and I lived in Seattle for 20 years. And the last 10 years I lived in Seattle, I worked for Clothworks. But you know it's Clothworks. When I first started working for them, they were fabric sales, but most people now know them as Clothworks, and they know them because of the Laurel Birch fabrics. That's probably what most people recognize as the Laurel Birch fabrics. And I worked for them for 10 years, and I belonged to a guild. And one of my guild members was Nancy Martin, and she invited me to come out to their offices and submit a proposal to bring my quilts, and they would do a book with me. So that's how I got writing books. And in 2001, we left Seattle, we sold our house, I quit my job, and we moved to Florida. And about a week before we moved to Florida, I submitted my first manuscript. So that was a busy year. And my first book came out in 2002. We were in Palm Coast, Florida for 10 years before we moved up here to Georgia. And I now have a house on a lake, and I travel and teach, and I continue to do some book writing, not as much as I used to. After 14 books, I'm kind of through that phase. But I do a lot of work for magazines, and you've probably seen one or two of my quotes in magazines. And I edit books now for Martingale. So I'm a technical editor. I take what other people submit and I make sure it's correct. That's my job. So it's fun and I enjoy it, and I still sew every day, and not as much handwork as I'd like to, but you know, it's a good time. It's a good time.
What's some of the common, I don't want to say errors, what are the common things that you see from book to book?
In style or quilts or?
When you're editing, do you see like a lot of typos, or I had to.
Well, one of the things that happens with editing is that Martingale has a certain style, and they like their books to conform to that style. So that's one of my jobs, is to format the manuscript so that it complies with their preferred, what we call their preferred style. So if somebody submits a manuscript where their cutting instructions are written to where, and you know, everybody kind of has their own style for cutting instructions, but what you'll see a lot of times is somebody will put like the number, and then they'll put a parentheses, and then they'll put, so they'll say 2 parentheses 2-inch squares. That's not Martingale style. Their style is that you write that out. So you would say 2 squares, comma, 2 inches by 2 inches. And it's just a style that I have to change to the way Martingale wants it done. What I commonly see is that people don't want to use fractions. They want to use decimal points. So it's not the style to say 2.5. You have to say 2.5. So those are just the little things that I have to change style-wise. And they also have a certain math style where the way you calculate things, and we add a percentage to make sure in case the fabric shrinks or you cut off the salvages that you're not going to end up being short. So I see people not including that, and you know, it's just that they're doing it a different way. I have to make it conform.
Amy would like to know, how would someone get started in pattern book writing? Pattern, or maybe Amy, you want to say pattern or book writing? Or is it just?
Well, I've not ever published my own patterns. I've never self-published. I've always published through Martingale. And so getting in the pattern industry, I think, is tough, and you probably could address that better than I could, Linda. But for books, I know Martingale, and I'm sure other companies have a place on their website where you can go and download the guidelines and how to submit a proposal. And it's tougher now than it was when I submitted it 20 years ago because of social media. And now they really want you to have a following and have a significant following within the social media realm.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth. And that's pretty much why I think some of the magazines and everything, because there's too much free stuff, and nobody wants to spend any money on the quality stuff that we work hard for.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And what I find interesting with magazines is I have people say to me all the time, "Oh, I don't spend $6.99 for a magazine." Like, but you get 25 patterns for $6.99.
Yeah.
And if you have a subscription, you're only paying like $12 a year, and you get like 100 patterns. So even if you only like 2 or 3, it's still a really good deal. Books are tough. It's hurt the book sales that there is so much free product. There's so many things that you can download for free patterns, free videos, free everything. And so it's harder to sell books.
So you're also an EQ artist.
I am. I started using EQ back when it was EQ3, and that was a DOS-based program. So that's been a long time that I've been using EQ, and I use it for everything. It's very, very rare. I would say in the last, I don't know, 20 years or more that there's been 1 or 2 quilts that I made that were not designed first on EQ. And so I know when I start working on a quilt, I know exactly what it's going to look like. I know exactly what I'm going to do and what I'm going to cut out and where I'm going to place those fabrics. And it saves me so much time and work and fabric to be able to have that all planned out ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And you teach EQ as well.
I do. I've taught it for a long time, and it's interesting. It's interesting. And I've taught it in guilds, and I've taught it like at Road to California. And sometimes you have people in class and who come with their husband's computer, and so they aren't familiar with where all the keys are, let alone the program. And that can make it really tough when you teach, and you're trying to teach the computer as well as the program itself. And I've had people who, even though I say you need to validate the thing with EQ, starting with, I think it was 7, you need to activate the program, or it self-activates every 30 days or something like that. But if you haven't been on your computer or haven't opened that program in 30 days and you don't have an internet connection, you may not be able to get into this program. So I was at a guild, and I said that the night before in the lecture. I said, now for tomorrow's class, make sure you open the program where you have an internet connection, and it activates in the background. You don't even see it happening. And I had somebody come to class, and we didn't have internet, and she hadn't opened the program. So just one of those things to remember and think about. I get caught on a plane every once in a while, and I have my other laptop with me, and I haven't had it on. And, I would have that same thing happen. But it's fun. It's fun to sit on a plane and design a quilt. And
bet you make a lot of friends with people asking what you're doing.
I know. So I don't very often sew on a plane because of that. But I have a little paper piecing project I take with me, and people don't ask me too much about that one. But I can tell you a story that's related to that.
Tell us.
So I was flying from somewhere, and this is when I still lived in Florida, and we had to travel through Atlanta. And there was a layover in Atlanta, and as we boarded the plane, I had seen this one man sitting by the gate, thinking, I hope I'm not sitting next to him. And sure enough, he plopped down the seat next to me, and he had had too much to drink. And when I got out my yo-yos, and I was making yo-yos, he just wanted to talk about the yo-yos the whole hour flight. And he wanted to buy me a drink, and he wanted, he was just having a good time. And I was just like,
you off this plane.
So that's what I run into sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. When the drink cart came by, I thought, oh, don't serve him. Please don't give him another drink. But they did.
Yeah. Don't forget, you can send Nancy your questions through the chat.
Yep. Ask me.
Amy, I was going to go there. You're stealing my question, Amy. You know, Amy would like to know.
The one about what I like to teach?
Yeah.
Pardon me? What I like to teach? You know, I do a lot of precision piecing, and that's what I really like to teach. And so I teach like feathered star classes, and I have another class that's called Granny Star. And both of them really involve that you have to cut really accurately, and you have to sew accurately, and you have to press accurately. But when you're done and you look at it, you go, wow, that's so cool. Look what I did. I could never done that. And that's really rewarding as a teacher for having somebody say that. So
Now,
I enjoy that. I enjoy teaching EQ as well because it opens it up for people. And what is my favorite quilt? Oh, you know, when you've made 400, 500 quilts, it's hard to pick a favorite. It really is. I've made one that has 12-inch feathered stars, and that could very well possibly be my favorite one because the pieces are small and it's really scrappy. And, you know, every time I show up, people are really impressed with it. And, you know, you're just real proud of it. It's something you can just go, yeah, I'm really proud of that quilt. So it's fun.
Amy wants you to come to Pigeon Forge. She was just there. We were there.
I was just there. I was
20
last year with Linda.
Yeah, last year.
But I'd like to go back. Yeah.
We had a good time
Linda and I
there.
taught at Pigeon Forge. We had a good time.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
And but
Last year, Linda and I happened to be at 3 shows together teaching. So
Yep.
that was fun. We had a good time.
And then of course we go out to eat.
So what else?
With everything that you do, with editing, with teaching, with designing, fabric design, which is your favorite out of all the things that you did or done?
You know, designing quilts. Yeah, designing quilts is really my favorite. I've made so many quilts. I mean, I really have made over 500 quilts that sometimes I get a little bit bored with sewing. If I'm making all of the blocks, there's 20 blocks and all of them are exactly the same. I have to confess, I get a little bored with that. If I'm scrappy, I don't. But so I really like designing. I like that challenge of putting stuff together. And that's really what I like about editing as well, because I have a math brain, believe it or not. So I like that I can figure that stuff out and make it come out the way it's supposed to. So that's what, you know, like designing, that's the creativity part of it for me. And so I find that fun.
Connie would like to know, are you doing
And, you know,
Zoom,
EQ always has made that kind of easy.
are you doing
I'm
Zoom
not
lectures
doing
with Guilds?
Zoom guilds. No, I'm not doing Zoom guilds. I'm not. Living out here on the lake, our internet can be kind of iffy once in a while. And I would hate to be teaching a Zoom class and have my internet go down. And it's really hard to help somebody. I think it would be hard to help somebody as the way I prefer to if I'm on a video. You know, because a lot of times when I'm walking around class and just chatting with somebody, that's when I can point out where they need to do something a little bit differently. And I don't know that I could do that on Zoom.
Denise would like to know, do you do
So
your,
I'm hoping that we get back for, do I do?
I'm sorry, finish
What
what,
was the question, Linda?
do you do your own quilting? Do you
Oh,
send
I
it
was
out?
gonna say, I hope at some point we, a little bit of both. If I'm, you know, if I'm not really busy, I do my own quilting. But if I have a lot of quilts under deadline and I figure I can send one out and have it quilted while I'm starting the next one, then I'll do that. But in reality, I like to quilt my own because 9 times out of 10, it comes back. And I have a wonderful quilter, don't get me wrong, I have a wonderful quilter, but it comes back and I would have done something just a little different. And so if I have time, I like to quilt my own. And now that I'm home, you know, my classes, I haven't been traveling and I won't be traveling until September, fingers crossed, September. You know, I have more time to quilt. So I take advantage of that. So I
and I
have a
know.
long arm. I actually have a sit down. I
Oh,
have a sit down long arm. So I have an APQS George, which is just a long arm in a cabinet where I still move the fabric. So I started out with a domestic machine moving my quilt, and that's what I still do is I move the quilt. So I've learned to do it that way, and it takes practice. I've edited a lot of machine quilting books, and that's helped me. It's helped me try different things and learn different things.
well, I know two things. Everybody usually cringes when I say that. I know a couple of things about you.
Okay.
I know you like Zumba.
Yes, I like Zumba.
And you have your pet. You have this white chicken. He's on your website. You've had him for a long time. Okay,
Long
and
time.
my daughter calls everything with feathers a chicken. So we have beach chickens, white chickens. We have all styles of chickens. So I saw Nancy's white chicken on her website when I was on there. Oh, what's his name?
His name is Prince, and he's an umbrella cockatoo. They also call him a great white cockatoo, but most people know him as an umbrella cockatoo. And we have had him for 40 some years, 42, 43 years. He was 3 or 4 when we bought him, and he's traveled across the United States with us. And you know, what do? He's like a 2-year-old that never grows up and leaves home. And he'll be with us for a long, long time. He will live to be 75 or 100 long after. He'll still be around long after we're gone. So
Somebody said
it's
they
an
miss
adventure every day.
they miss your carpet of the day.
My carpet of the days, and I know when I travel, you know, I take. It's interesting when you travel and you see these hotel carpets. They're always so. I don't know, some of them are a little strange and others of them are really cool, but it's fun posting them and seeing people's different reactions to them.
Yeah. Now, you said something real quick about your on the road project. That has me intrigued.
My on the road project.
That's
So
it.
last year, and I like to hand sew when I'm on the road. And sometimes I will and sometimes I won't because I also like to read, and that's sometimes my only time to read. But last year my on the road project was a hand applique project, which I hadn't done in a really long time. But I have this English paper piecing project that is 30 years old. And so I decided after my applique project that I would pull it back out again and start working on it and try and make a little bit of progress on it. So I'm not.
Deb, there's hope for me,
You
Deb.
guys could see it.
There you go.
Is that
Okay.
all you got done?
This star, yeah. So this star, some of this, like this star, I made probably 30 years ago.
Mhm.
So this is kind of what I have in mind to do with them. And then I've made a bunch of these, and I'm going to fill them in the different spots. And it'll grow, you know, it'll grow. It'll be another 30 years, I'm sure, but it'll grow. So, yeah, it'll be fun.
So
It's just
there's
something
hope
to
for me.
do, you know, when you're sitting and waiting. What's that?
That there's hope for me. 'Cause I don't do handwork. I send my quilts up to Debbie to bind.
See, I like to hand bind. There's no hope for it. I like to hand bind. Once in a while I'll do it on the machine, all by machine, but my preference really is to do it by hand.
Does anybody have any more questions?
And I
for
think
Nancy?
it's really good.
Sorry. You're on a delayed thing for me. What were you going to say?
I think that, you know, I think I like to do handwork because I've done so much in the past. And so it's just, it's real relaxing for me to sit and do handwork and, you know, watch TV. And that's why I like doing it on the road, is because a lot of times there's nothing really on TV in the hotel room that you want to watch. So I can have it on the background and it's noise, but I'm really focused on what I'm stitching. So
Amy would like to know, What is something on your quilting bucket list?
My quilting bucket list, man, that's a hard question because, you know, I've done so much, and you know, I love cruising with people, and I was fortunate to be able to cruise through the Panama Canal a couple years ago, and that was really a big deal, and that's something I never would have been able to do if I hadn't been able to be teaching on a cruise ship. And so you know, that's really fun to do. And so I don't know, I don't know, maybe win the big award at Paducah. That would be a good thing. I'd love to win the big award at Paducah.
I mean, now you're buying dinner that night.
Who knows? That's for sure. For everybody. So,
Kate would like to know how often
yeah.
do you catch mistakes and patterns that you edit?
Oh, always. Always. Yeah. No, you know, I make mistakes. And that, you know, the part of the editing process is that I get the manuscript and I clean it up and I make sure everything's right, and then I send it off, and then things happen to it and it comes back to me laid out as page proofs. And I've just been reading page proofs, and I've noticed a couple places where I didn't have something right. You know, either I I made a typo, or I didn't pick up my correction correctly. So yeah, mistakes happen, and we never intend them to happen, but we're all human, and so they do.
Yeah.
So it happens all the time. Martingale really does I think, a great job of trying to make sure that books go out without any mistakes, because they check them so many times. But even at that, sometimes, you know, a book is published and there's an error in it, and it's just because we're human.
Denise would like to know, are there folks that sew out the patterns to make sure all the directions are correct?
No, there are no test sewers. So we rely on everything mathematically. It's all done mathematically. So that if, you know, 3 2-inch squares are supposed to add up to a 6-inch piece. You know, if you're making a 9 patch and all those squares are 2 inches finished, it should be a 6-inch finished block. So, you know, because not all test sewers sew accurately either. So you kind of have to watch for that. And there's not only, I am not that great at English grammar kind of stuff. And so there are people who check that as well. That's their job, is to make sure that, you know, grammar is correct and the punctuation is correct. And I'm just checking math, because that's my brain goes, is math.
Clearly, somebody has an issue with my grammar. I don't know why. Debbie has to check everything before we send anything. Because clearly somebody has an issue with my grammar.
Well, you know, they say the worst thing you can do is be your own editor. So it's good to have someone else check your stuff.
It's very hard to catch your own mistakes. You just look at it and think, oh yeah, it's right.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
You know, because you read over it. You read what you think it says, not what it actually says.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy from Twin Rivers Quilters in New Bern. Oh, I love that guild. She says hello.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Hello. That was one of my favorite places to visit. I really enjoyed Newburgh.
Yeah, and you know it's a good guild when you got
For
the
those who
teachers
don't know where
saying.
it is, it's in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in North Carolina. It's right on the coast of North Carolina. It's a beautiful little town.
Yeah. Hey, and Debbie came with me the first time I went there.
Yeah.
And we stopped at a Walmart and we got like this $1 a bottle wine. And we went to go out to the pool. And they said you couldn't bring any liquor there. So I took the garbage can from the room and I went down and I filled it up with ice and I put the wine in there and we took it out, the garbage can. And Debbie was drinking and I took pictures. And because people don't think she does, I took pictures and she went on my camera and she deleted them when I was sleeping.
Absolutely.
So I didn't have any evidence.
Wouldn't you?
Nancy,
Yes.
Nancy Bell from Annapolis is unable to get any sound. Turn your volume on. Yeah, turn it up. Got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Does EQ figure yardage?
It does. Actually, it does. You, as one of the features in it, you can ask it to do that, and it will give you, based on the fabrics that you have in the quilt, it'll tell you how much you need of each fabric. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind, though, is it doesn't know what method of construction you're going to use. So for something like flying geese units, it's sewing triangles together, a big triangle and two little triangles. And if you want to use a method that would use squares and rectangles, it's not calculating it based on that method. Yeah. So you'll want to be sure and add extra yardage if you're not going to use the method that, that they default to. And if you want to know what method they're using, then you can print out like rotary cutting instructions, and it'll tell you what size pieces you need to cut for one block, how many and what size. And I print those out always. I always have it. I have a bulletin board that I tack that on, and then I
do too.
figure out my math and extend it out how much I need to cut. And sometimes I don't do it right. I just realized I cut 20 too many triangles.
So, okay.
20 is a lot.
You rock.
Yeah.
You rock. I am so happy to see
20
you.
too many.
And it's
fun seeing you every Monday and Wednesday, Linda.
Yeah, and I beat them all up so that they're all hurting. They're all hurting right about now. Denise over here, she's hurting. Nancy's hurting today. Today was a tough day. I'm hurting. It's a 3 Tylenol day for me.
Yep.
And 3 Tylenol and a half pitcher of Malibu with a tint of cranberry juice. So we will put Nancy's contact information up on the So What Facebook page, so you can find her if you'd like to invite her to your guild when we finally get going. And you can watch it again if you'd like on YouTube. It's under So What Zoomcast. So What Zoomcast. So we're going to turn this over to Deb because she has some knowledge to impart. Nancy, thank you so much.
Hi, Nancy.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks for having me.
You look, you're getting all
Bye,
these,
guys.
you're getting some hands there. Okay, now we're going to get Deb in the spotlight video. Hi, Deb.
Hello.
Hey, did you go and get anything in your glass while we were talking?
No, still has Coke Zero in it. Well, Linda asked me to speak today a little bit about sewing with hexes. And I happen to have several unfinished hexie projects, so I have plenty of experience in how to do everything. I've looked up a couple different ways of doing everything, and I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, I'm going to move over to my camera. Can you got my camera on?
Change it or mine?
Can you change it?
Yeah.
Got it?
No. I'm not that fast.
Okay, well.
I gotta find you.
Move it along. Move it along.
There we go. I see a hand and a ruler.
I don't want my, yes, okay. All right. So, first thing you're going to need, you're going to be paper piecing your hexies, is paper. So hexies, I'm not sure if you're aware, are named by the size, by the length of one side. So for example, this is an 1.5 inch hexie. This is a 1 inch hexie. Oops, let me see there. 1 inch hexie, and this is a 3/4 inch hexie. Actually, most paper piecing is named that way so that a 1 inch hexie will match up with a 1-inch triangle. That's how you know that the pieces will fit. Sometimes you'll see people name the hexies by the width of them, but then you don't really know what the side length is of some of the pieces. So I would go with that. And these are, what we usually use are these that come from paper pieces. And this particular package is like $3.50, and it has 125 3/4-inch hexies in it. Then you need fabric. So you have two choices. You can either cut your hexie in the shape that you want, leaving a 1/4-inch, at least a 1/4-inch seam allowance around it. Don't make any less than that because it makes it hard to turn the edges under. Or if you have a square, some people will use the square and just sew it like that. If you do that, you end up with, where's my hexie? Let's see. You end up having to trim it afterwards. You can see that this one was sewn from a square, so
That's a lot of bulk.
it's got a lot of bulk, so you do need to trim it. Otherwise, you would end up with one that's like this after it's sewn. Okay, now you need a needle and thread. And I usually, for the basting part, use my regular 50 weight Orfil or whatever you have. Some people like to use silk thread, not for the basting, but for putting the pieces together because it's very fine and it helps your stitches be hidden. But you can also use whatever weight of cotton thread that you're used to using. Another option, if you decide you don't want to baste your hexies, is to use glue. And there's several brands of glue sticks. It needs to be a temporary glue stick because you're going to have to take that paper out before you finish your project. So this is a sew line one. This one is by Bowen. This one is Roxanne's Glue Basted, which a lot of people like. So you would just, this is a liquid, you would just put a few drops to baste that with glue. Glue is really helpful if you have a curve. For hexies you don't, but it's actually very fast to glue it. First I'm going to show you the traditional, which is basted through the hexie. So you'll see that there are stitches showing on the right side of the hexie after it's done, as well as on the back. So you would start out with your hexie. And what I like to use is Wonder Clip. These are the mini ones. And I like to clip one side of the hexie with the Wonder Clip because that helps hold it nice and taut while you work on the other side. Then you would just start, I start in the center of a side. I like to put the knot on the outside because that way I can take the stitches out before I cut the back away. So I'm going to just take a couple of stitches and I'm going to now fold over the corner with my fingers. I'm going to come up next to the corner and come down on top of the fold.
What you're doing right there, that would take me a year.
So this fold is now stitched nicely in place. So I'm just going to keep basting along the side. The stitches do not have to be close together. You're not trying for a quilter's, so many stitches per inch. You just want to hold it in place. So again, I'm going to come up near the fold. Near the fold.
Hey, Deb, can you hear me?
I am sewing through the paper for this method, right through the paper.
Suzanne would like to know, do you use batik fabric?
I do sometimes, yes. I use all different kinds of fabric. This particular one is is a kit that just came with the pieces already cut. So through the magic of television,
Dun, da-da!
and when you get to the end, you're almost, this is where I started in the middle of the side. So I'm going to get to the last part, and I will just tuck that end back under and make sure that all of the folds are going in the same direction, because that just helps with the bulk. And then I'll come up and I will go down into my fold. Oops. And then I'll come on the right side and just take a few stitches just to hold it in place, a couple of back stitches, and then I will just cut it at like maybe a 1/2 inch away. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to knot it because it's not going anywhere until you have it all sewn together. And that way you can see that this is nice and tight and that your corners are good and your sides are nice and tight and not loose. That way they'll all be the same size. So when it comes time to sew your pieces together, they're exactly the same, and you can just put them right sides together and use your either your saddle stitch, your ladder stitch, or a whip stitch, whatever you like. And again, a lot of people like to use silk thread for this part, or a very fine thread that helps to hide those whip stitches. Another option, now this is only an option if the sides of your hexie are are 1 inch or less. If the sides are long, like this 1.5 inch one, this part will flop around too much. You're only tacking the corners and you're not going through the paper at all. So I'll show you how that one works. Okay.
Deb, do you start your best press?
Not usually, but you can, and sometimes that does help. So for one that's tack stitched, you can see the stitches are holding the corners together, but there's no stitching on the right side and you are not going through the paper. So technically, once this is sewn down, appliqued down to whatever, or put together, however you're going to put it together, you can take that paper out and you don't even have to take the tack stitches out if you don't want to. So for that particular one, I'm going to take it under clip again. I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold my first corner. I'm going to take a stitch through that corner and then do a little back stitch. And then I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to go right on to the next corner. I am not going through the paper. I am only going through the fabric. And I am only sewing corners in place.
Can you come higher? Yeah.
So here's my next corner. So I'm taking my thread and I'm going straight over right to the next corner. So this thread is just going to go from here to here. I'm going to take a little back stitch in the corner. Again, I'm not going through the paper. I'm only tacking down that little fold. Go to the next corner, turn it down. My thread again is going to go from here over to here. And I'm going to take another stitch. And when I get to the end, I'll just do the last one, and then it will be all tucked in place, and it will look like I dropped my hexie.
That'll take me many years to do that.
Again,
Right there with Nancy.
You can see that the stitches are just going from the corner to the next corner, and that there are no stitches going through the paper or through the outside. So once this is sewn together with its next piece, you could just leave those stitches in if you want, because you will be able to just pop this paper out. And then everything is still in place. I would still leave the paper in until I had the sides sewn together. Okay, then once you have you have your piece put together and you applique it down either by machine or by hand, you can go in the back and you can cut away the center behind your applique, and then you can pop the paper out. So if you're doing several of them, like this, all the paper is still in this. Now, because this one, I start with my knots on the right side, so I can actually take this paper out. I could take this center paper out before I applique it down if I want to. So I could just clip that and just pull out the basting threads because I have all my knots on the right side. So I could pull that whole thing out and then take the paper out if I want to. And then once you're done with your piece, you can
When you take the paper out, when you take the paper out, you take the thread out first, and then you can take the paper out. Okay.
You have to take the basting out before you take the paper out, unless you've done the tack stitch. And then once you've got it applique down, in this case, I machine applique this, then you can cut away the whole center of this flower, and it's ready to be put into a quilt. Okay.
Cool.
Gluing. I never really did a lot of gluing until a few days ago, when I decided I was going to do the Brimfield block, which is not hexagons, but it is paper pieced.
Do I need
And
to
the
change?
advantage to gluing is,
Okay, she's still there.
the advantage of gluing is it's really, really fast. So you're just going to put down a little bit of glue. And again, the key word there is a little, because you are going to have to peel this stuff off the glue eventually. So you're just going to put the glue on the fabric, not on the paper. And then, you are basically ready to start stitching, putting your pieces together. So the advantage of that is that it's very fast. I haven't used it because a lot of these pieces that I'm using, they're Japanese fabrics, the taupe fabrics, and some of them are pretty thick. So I did the basting. But for regular batiks or for other fabrics, you can definitely do the gluing. Right? Let's see what else. Again, you can use your ladder stitch or your slip stitch to put your pieces together. Then if you really, really, really hate the basting part and you just want to go right to the fun part, you can use wool. So these hexagons are just cut out in hexagon shape. And for that, I actually used my AccuQuilt to cut out the felt, the wool felt. And then I just put these down and I added all kinds of beads and embroidery. And this is actually a little zipper bag.
Can you hold that up closer? Sometimes Debbie annoys me. She can bead in the car and she doesn't spill anything.
And then this is also a project. Well, these two projects were for Linda to teach on a cruise. And she did actually teach them on the cruise and people really enjoyed it. So these are also, this is framed, but it is also wool hexies. And there's beads and there's some embroidery stitches. So if you need more information about hexies, there's a lot of hexie books. This is one that's called All Points Patchwork. This is one that's called Adventures in Hexagons. This is one that's called The New Hexagon. And these are many different shapes put together to form a hexagon. And this is Quick and Easy Hexie Quilts. And those are only a few, but those are the few that I actually happen to own.
Hey Deb, have you used black needles when using batiks?
I have not, because I usually just use the same needles for binding, for applique. It doesn't matter if it's batik or not batiks. I use the same numbers, 10 applique needles. They're actually straw milliner needles. And that's what I use for all my handwork.
Am I
Okay,
switching?
thank you
I'm
very much. Switch
okay.
back to,
I
all
need to switch the cameras.
right.
Hold on a minute.
I will just hold this little bag up in person so you can see the whole thing.
Everybody saw that? You can see that? I gotta turn this camera off.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see that it's like different things. Okay,
All right,
over
So-
to Linda.
over to me.
Over to you.
Last week, I talked to you about the dome needle threader, and I said I thought I had some. I have 3. Somebody put on the text that they wanted one, and I have them with postage included. They're $13 with postage included. So I got 3. I'm gonna start having some website specials because I have some stuff that I need to move around. So my overstock is going to be your game. So because Debbie did this paper piecing thing, the package I have is a package of paper piecing 1.5-inch hexagons, a whole package of number 10 John James Milliner's needles. Yeah, Milliner's needles. Thread Heaven. Lubricant. A little needle threader. And a spool of 50 weight Orfill thread. With the postage. With postage and everything included. $23 for everything. And it's pretty much cost. These are like $9. So if you want one, put it in the text, and then I will get up with you later. If you want the needle dome or this whole package, I think I have about 10. These are like leftover stuff from classes that I did. I always get extra. Bring to class in case somebody else shows up or whatever. So it's time to start moving them out. I ain't working. So next week, the Brimfield girls are going to be here. If you've been out and about and you have seen them, if you've been to Quilt Market, it's like all the rage. Do you have yours? I can't find mine yet. Brimfield. Everybody's doing big Brimfields, little Brimfields. There's a whole bunch of quilts. And the Brimfield girls are coming. We have Patty Carey this month. I don't know what she's doing. I don't see her on here. We have Nancy Dill from Quilt Woman, one of our sponsors. There she is. Spotlight Nancy. And I'm going to unmute yourself.
I did.
What are you going to do?
What am I going to do when I host, you mean?
Yeah.
And the guest? I'm going to show a bunch of our new patterns that are formatted so that you can use them for all different types of projects. Like you can use them for applique or punch needle embroidery, hand embroidery, quilting, all different kinds of things, and how you can take patterns and adapt them to do different kinds of crafts and needlework,
That sounds
including some of the Linda Hahn patterns.
Oh, hey. Where are you?
What's that?
Where are you? Are you in your house? Or you
Me?
work?
I'm in my office.
What's in your glass?
My water. Boring. Buzz me.
I wait all day. Okay, with the buzzers.
Hey. What can I say?
You are on August 22nd. Let's see. And then
On
on,
22nd?
no, or not August, no, July, sorry.
July, okay, cool.
And on July 29th, we have the infamous Mark Lipinski
Oh, cool.
coming on. And he will take your questions. And then we're already lining up August. We have Mary Kerr. I think we have Pepper Corey. I don't know. We'll have a bunch of interesting people. So we have to. Where's he? That means it's time for door prizes. I wait all day to do this. I wait all day. So everybody got their glass. And Amy, you're probably at work, so you're out. Alice, we can't see you, so we can't see what's in your glass. And Kat, I see glasses. I see glasses. I see glasses. Okay, Deb, would you like to go first?
Yeah, okay, let's see. Siobhan.
Siobhan, let's spotlight you. You unmute yourself?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
You are.
You're
Good.
unmuted.
What's in there?
You're gonna buzz me. It's peach iced tea.
That's it?
It's early here.
Oh, well.
Oh. All right. It's my turn. All right, where's Nancy?
Well, you get a prize anyway.
You get a prize anyway. Make sure we get
All
your
right,
email.
Siobhan. Yes, put your email in the chat.
Yeah, Debbie's doing that. Nancy,
Hi.
what are you doing today?
Okay, I got a couple different options. So the winner of my prize can choose between this assortment of fat quarters,
Ooh.
or if they like yarn,
Whoa.
they can choose 6 skeins of our beautiful Barb's hand-dyed variegated fingering wool or chunky wool yarn.
Ooh.
So whatever they're into.
All right. Let me go back to my gallery. All right. Who are you going to pick?
Well, I like the way she did it last week, to where she like closed her eyes and
All
just
right. And just whirl around and
Whirl
point at someone.
around.
Maybe you'll pick me.
Oh, I got Nancy Mahoney. Is that fair?
Oh,
Pick another one.
Pick another one. Okay, I gotta go lower. Who's here? Oh, Suzanne A.
Unmute yourself.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne. What do you got?
I'm going to, I have a plain iced tea.
Really?
Better than water.
It's too early.
Oh, come on, people. Make sure we got your, you're going to get up with Nancy Dill.
Yeah, do you want her to just email me?
Yeah.
Customer service at quiltwoman.com. Just let me know
Your
which
prize.
you'd like.
I'll get a hold of you and tell you.
Cool.
All right, Nancy, you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, the other Nancy. Sorry.
Yeah, Nancy Mahoney.
Yes, ma'am. I pick my Zumba friend Denise.
Denise. All right, Denise, I know you know better. I know you know better. What's in that glass, woman?
Okay, it's Arnold Palmer iced tea with pomegranate juice. How about if I say there's Malibu too?
Okay. There we go. Make sure we have your email.
Thank
You got
you.
me.
Thank you.
you? You gotta unmute yourself. Hi.
Hi.
You want a door prize?
Oh, what size door?
A big one.
A big one, okay.
Now, are you gonna disappoint me?
Oh, I'm actually drinking liquid dye because I was a little blue and thought I'd turn into green. Does that count?
All right, let's see. Liquid dye.
Oh, wait a
Does dye count? Blue dye? Thumbs up or thumbs down, girls? Like it looks like you got. Oh, we got some thumbs up.
Oh, I got green fingernails to prove it too. It's coming up
Oh
through my
man!
fingernails.
All right, all right. We're gonna give you a ding dong today.
All right, I am a ding dong.
Okay, and I actually have you
Isn't that wonderful?
look lovely.
Yes.
You look lovely. So, I have your email. So I will send you a door prize.
Okie dokie, sounds great.
Okay. We talked about who's coming next. Talked about the stuff. Oh, virtual classes. I am doing for the month of July. I am doing Feeling Crabby, Your Beauty. And I'm going to do something that is Valley Pop friendly. So all you need is a Valley Pop. Called Valley Jewels. So that will be up on the website. And Deb, I think, is going to do that Velcro bag as a free class. Hang on. Yeah, spotlight you, Deb.
Okay.
Here you are. You'll do that as a free class, and we have that on July 14th. It's a sew along with Deb, and you can do that. Just gotta let us know so that we can set up the cameras and all that other stuff. Is she getting it? So make sure you tell your friend.
This is the Velcro.
You go back there. Hang on, I'm going back. You're still spotlight. Dead.
That's the little Velcro bag. See? Hey, bag. We'll do a little sew along.
Okay. So we'll have that information up on the Frog Hollow site. As soon as my staff comes home and goes to work, bitsing around in the pool, and a cigar and everything. So I gotta make him go to work. So, all right. So if nobody, does anybody have any questions for us before we hang up? This is our Zumba channel. If anybody would like to join us for Zumba, Monday and Wednesday morning at 9:30. And you can work out the kinks. Okay, all right, we'll post this. So Deb, you have anything to say?
We're all good.
Nancy?
Been fun.
Okay. Everybody, girls, we love you. Thank you so much. Please wear your masks and have a safe week. And we will see you next week. Or what? Hey, how do we turn it off? Turning everybody off.
We got 28 participants, 49 said they were coming, so I guess that's about everybody, right?
It's like
Okay.
that video.
We're going to shut off recording.
Oh yeah.